Good evening and welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and I'm broadcasting live via SHR Media and streaming live via Facebook. I don't know why I was going to say and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio, which I haven't been on High Plains Pundit in like a year. Old habits die hard. Well, welcome. Anyhow, I am so very happy to be here. My guest for this evening, hey, Patrick Hampton is in the building. How are you? In the Facey chat, how are you? My guest this evening for the first hour, it's a very exciting Money Talk with Melanie. For the first hour, I have the one and only Lonnie Poindexter, host of Lion Chasers with Lonnie Poindexter on Urban Family Talk. He's going to talk to us this evening about the Content of Character series. So I'm very happy to have him here this evening. And then after that, I'm going to have the one and only Ron Edwards from the Ron Edwards Experience. And if that name sounds familiar, that is because I play the Ron Edwards Notebook here each and every week on Money Talk with Melanie. And you will hear a brand new Ron Edwards Notebook again during the first commercial break. So it's a very exciting evening here on Money Talk with Melanie, and I'm super excited to be blessed to have these two stellar gentlemen on my show this evening. But before we do anything else, a little bit of housekeeping, and welcome to the Facey chat, Patrick Hampton and Bob DeLucia. I think you're new. At least I've never seen your name in the Facey chat before, so welcome to Money Talk with Melanie. Very happy to have you here this evening. A few things going on in the news. GDP report was out today. It was about 3.5%, which was just absolutely excellent. They were only expecting it to be 2%. And you know what is it? I don't know why they keep underestimating how well the economy is doing. Well, I guess maybe I do kind of know why they're underestimating how well the economy is doing. They don't want to give our president very much credit. And, you know, say what you want about his personality. The man knows what he's doing with money, period, point blank. He knows what he's doing with the economy. He knows what he's doing with money. And you have to give him credit for that. And I don't know why people can't seem to make that distinction, you know, delineate the two things. The man knows what he's doing. We've had 2 years of some pretty good prosperity. And I mean, he can't take 150% credit, but I think he can take a whole lot of the credit for our economy doing pretty well. He's steering that ship, let's face it. So, but I think they don't want to give him credit. They said that, once he got elected, the stock market was going to crash. That did not happen. They said once he instituted the tariffs, that all kinds of bad things were going to happen. That didn't happen. They said once he made all kinds of decisions dealing with Israel, that bad things were going to happen. That didn't happen. They keep saying that every decision he makes is going to be a disaster, and it never happens. And if you follow me at all, you know that I'm not a huge fan of POTUS's personality, but I am a fan of progress. I am a fan of getting things done. And I'm certainly a fan of the conservative agenda, and I'm a fan of small government. So, and he's getting things done. I'm a fan of a healthy economy. So, and surely religious liberty. He's getting it all done. So, give the man credit where credit is due. And the man is working hard. And hello, John Stuckey in the Facey chat. And Mike Fitzpatrick, how are you, darling? Ellen Kelly, welcome. Keep your eye on the road, John Stuckey. I don't want you crashing that big old truck. So, you got to give the man credit where credit is due. And so GDP is doing very well. We could listen, if we play our cards right and we get a good person in the Fed, we could hit 4%, 5% growth. We really could. Even higher than that if we keep on a good trajectory. And I think that we will get a really good deal with China, especially, I think, Donald Trump's going in there kind of saying, look, we're doing really well. You want to get on this train, gentlemen, or what? Yeah, Mike Fitzpatrick is on the road as well. So thank you for listening. Eric Jessup, don't be such a pessimist. You don't think that our economy is healthy? Are you going to be a pessimist like the Democrats and say that we're not doing well? Like some people are doing well, but Now people only have access to two jobs. Do we not remember when no one had jobs? We don't recall those times when people didn't have access to jobs, when the biggest growth that we had was like 2% as an economy. Let's remember, yes, Trump does spend a lot, but in order for the economy to grow, companies have to make money. Companies have to keep their money over here, which they're doing since the corporate tax went down to 21%. Come on, Eric. We got to start somewhere. The economy, yes, inflation is a worry, but inflation was a worry when all the spending wasn't going into the economy. I mean, let's keep it real. Inflation is a worry. But I think that what he's doing to Fed is going to take care of that. I don't think we're headed toward a collapse. I don't. Every time they say we're headed toward a collapse, the government just keeps growing. But I agree with you that inflation is certainly a worry. And Pastor Henry Essick is in the Facey chat. Hello, how are you? And welcome David Anthony as well. So I just think that's a good thing. And you're concerned about the underpinnings. I agree that there's some concern about the underpinnings, but right now all the fundamentals are still healthy. They're still healthy. You have low unemployment still. We are still starting to see wage growth, which is something that was a concern before. So I think the underpinnings are still doing okay. I think still we're doing okay. Just hold your fire just a little bit. We were not. If they take care of the health care, we take care of this deal with China, I think we're going to be okay. We're not looking for the Dems to pull another 2008. That's for sure. I mean, if we lose 220, which I don't think we will, I think he'll get reelected. That's going to be a problem. But, we have to be careful. We can't have any screw ups. We cannot have any screw ups. We can't have any shadiness. And we know the Democrats are shady. It's a scary world out there. Tom Basta, welcome. Frank, Ronald, welcome. So it's a scary world out there. No doubt about it. I just thought this was kind of funny. This news story, McDonald's, I don't know why I thought this is why I thought it was funny. McDonald's has formed a new partnership with the AARP to hire more people from the fastest growing age groups in the workforce, those 50 and older. Now, I'll tell you why I thought it was funny, because it used to be long marked as America's first job. It was my first job. I often tell my students that I worked at McDonald's. This is why I thought it was funny. That was my first job. And when I always have my students guess how much money I made when I worked at McDonald's, and they rarely ever guess it. They're making $10 an hour now at McDonald's. And I started at a mere $3.50 an hour. So I'm like super jealous. And at the time, I remember thinking that if only I made $10 an hour, that I would be super rich, because I did calculations that if I made $10 an hour, that would be 40 hours a week, and that would be $400 a week, and I would just have it made in the shade. And that's why I found that very, very, very amusing when I saw that article. But we're up against the break. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. My guest for the first hour is the one and only Mr. Lonnie Poindexter, host of Lion Chasers with Lonnie Poindexter. He's going to talk to us about the content of Character Series. I'm very excited to have him here this evening. We will be back in one moment. A brand new Ron Edwards notebook coming your way right now.
Once again, government school bullies seek to trample on parental rights. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, because of the abysmal quality of government school education, many parents across America have opted to homeschool their children. Homeschooled students traditionally benefit from a superior education and are not indoctrinated against America, God, or free market economics. So, parents in West Virginia are hoping that West Virginia Education Chair Representative Kenneth Mann, a Republican, and his Democrat cohorts, Senators Michael Romano and Ron Stallings, who proposed a law that would prohibit homeschooling and order CPS investigations if parents who had children who accrued 10 absences fails. In fact, the bill would treat homeschooling as abuse in order to increase government control over the decision-making process concerning where West Virginia students go to school, leaving parents out in the cold. This is yet another statist government official attempt to see how much more will sovereign citizens allow them to push forward with their evil agenda to indoctrinate all students. Thus, it is past time for parents en masse to stand up for their unalienable right to seek the best way to train up their children in the way they should go. I'm Ron Edwards. Join me live Fridays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on AmericaMatters.us.
This week's Money Talk Minute. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. This week we talk, did I receive a Trump tax cut? Now, the first thing you need to understand is that the Trump tax cut refers to your federal income taxes only. It does not refer to your state income taxes or your local municipal taxes. Now, according to H&R Block, based on their clients' tax returns, taxes were down some 24.9% on average, and refunds were up some 1.4%. Bi-weekly paychecks were up as well by about $50. Now, here comes the most relevant figure, tax liability. To be clear, your tax liability refers to the amount of taxes you incur based on current tax law. How did this turn out? On average, tax liability, at least among H&R Block clients, was reduced by $1,200 this year on average. Now, how does this look to you as an individual or a couple with depending on your tax bracket, exemptions, and other individual circumstances? And that's this week's Money Talk Minute. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. Please do remember to listen to Money Talk with Melanie every Friday, 5 p.m. East, 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and 2 p.m. West, live on SHR Media or streaming live on Facebook. Welcome back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and my guest for the first hour is the one and only Lonnie Poindexter from Lion Chasers with Lonnie Poindexter. And if you are not familiar with him, he is a radio host out of DC. He's also a correspondent and director of Urban Family Pastors Network. He has over 25 years of successful management, sales, and marketing experience, having worked in Silicon Valley, startups, and the tech sector industry leaders in California. As a correspondent, he covers current events in the nation's capital concerning public policy and the faith-based community. He has a passion for the sanctity of life and fighting for the unborn. He collaborates with the nation's foremost pro-life organizations in America. Now, his show, Lion Chasers with Lonnie Poindexter, if you've never heard it, it's an excellent, excellent show. And he'll tell you it's on every day at 11 a.m., at least in our market. He'll tell you about the other times when he comes on the air. It's an in-depth look at the effects of liberal ideology on the African-American community. And its aim is to replace the long-held lies and deception with sound biblical principles that point our community back to a moral and free society. Rebuilding our foundation with biblical principles and an unwavering truth is essential if we hope to produce a prosperous community and strong families. I love his show, and I absolutely adore this man. Without further ado, Mr. Lonnie Poindexter, how are you?
I'm doing just fine, Melanie. Thank you for allowing me to come on to your show. I really appreciate it. I'm seeing some familiar faces out there in the chat room list.
Yes, and you can send the check to 9 Orbit. No, I'm just kidding. I'm so glad to have you on this evening to talk about the content of Character series. One of the many things that you do is manage the content of Character series. Before we start talking about that, is there anything that I left out in your bio that you'd like the audience to know?
No, you pretty much covered it. With except I probably need to update it now. I've got 30 years now. I'm telling my age. 25. Ooh, good grief! Yeah, I'm older than that now. So yeah, I need to do an upgrade my bio there.
Oh, you're not a day over 39. Not a day over 39. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel every bit of my advanced years. Trust me.
So tell us about content of Character. One of the things you do is manage the content of Character series.
Well, content of characterseries.com, the formal name of the website link for your listeners that want to go out and learn more about the work that we do, was a concept that was discussed actually several years ago by myself, Dran Reese, who is the founder of Salt and Light Council, Pastor Stephen Bro, Pastor Walter Hoy, and some others. And when I was doing work with place, and she and Pastor Broden and Walter Hoy and a couple of other individuals whose names escapes me, forgive me if you guys are listening in today, and came up with the concept for the content of character. And then I jumped in with both feet, just said I could apply what at least my knowledge base and then my contact and media standpoint. And so the formal website was launched almost 2 years ago. And what it's designed to do is basically to take the message that we all espouse here in your show, in your network, with your listener base, and take that worldview and apply it in a way that the faith-based community, and particularly those who happen to have the darker paint job, can hear the messaging, because I feel that what's happened in the Black community is we've forgotten our roots. And so we put this concept together. We do regional events where we pretty much, as opposed to me hosting events in Washington, D.C., like I've been doing for nearly 7 years here, it occurred to me that we need to take these events and push them out on a regional basis to the community that we're trying to target. And so that's when the model was developed, the concept was built. Our first event was in Kansas City. We just finished an event in and we're doing another one in San Diego in June, July time frame. And the next we'll be hitting will be Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and some other locales. So we've got about 7 under our belt now. And it's resonating with the community. They're hearing a message that, let me just back up a bit here. I'm originally from Southern California boy, born and raised. And I grew up in a solid Black, middle-class, upper-middle-class community. It was a community of folks who looked like us, who shared our collective paint job. I became a part of that community from the time we moved there when I was about 10 or 11 years old. So my formative years through junior high and high school was spent there. So I watched that community of folks with a darker paint job who all came from humble beginnings, but found a way to succeed in spite of the obstacles put before them, and attain the American dream.
Exactly.
They bought homes. Their first homes they bought in that community. They purchased businesses. As they became more successful in growing, they also began to do things that what the rest of America was doing, like buy a second car, like put a swimming pool in the backyard, like, hey, we have enough money now, let's put the kids through college, those types of things. And they accomplished all those things, and they did that independent of government programs, because there weren't any to speak of that you could supply the Black community. I mean, the entitlement programs of the mid-1960s were just getting underway at that point. So I saw that growing up, and so Content of Character looks to address the Black community being able to remember their original roots, and then from a political standpoint, make their own decisions about what their party affiliation will be.
Exactly. And you answered the question I was about to ask, which is what did you mean by getting back to your roots? Exactly. And I think that's the whole history that gets skipped over. You know what I mean? Because I don't think people realize that those are our roots. Because now we're in this whole history. We seem to be in this whole history of victimhood for some reason.
Yeah.
And I don't understand where that came from. Can you give the audience an idea of where that came from, so that perhaps when we hear that, we can give people an idea of where that came from?
Well, from my understanding, I've been around a little bit. There's some snow on the roof, but I began to see it. I didn't quite understand it at the time. Begin to see it right around the time of the implementation of the entitlement programs of the mid-1960s. Now, I was but a lad at that point, but I remember the FEDA program. I remember welfare, because I had relatives that went on welfare. I remember all these. I remember hearing buzz throughout the community and throughout even my extended family that you could go down to the county office or to the city, and there were these things that you could take advantage of. They were supposed to be able to help you get a leg up. And so I had many extended family members who partook in these so-called benefits, where those benefits end up being a millstone around the neck of our community, so that today, we know what the pathology and the systemic issues within our community where we have 70-some-odd% of households today in urban America are single parent.
Exactly. And so one of the things that those programs did, and what the Content of Character series is doing, is targeting those same groups, right? Targeting the poor and explaining to them what their history is, and telling them how to overcome these things. Am I right? How are they doing that?
Yes, we're doing that, and that's exactly right. And we're doing that by having subject matter experts from all walks of life that predominantly, that usually have our the Black Americans, only from a messaging standpoint that seems to resonate for the Black community, although we'll use anybody that has the truth that they can bring to the table and speak truth to our target audience. But again, as I mentioned before, it's to remind that community of its tradition, of its roots. Big thing revolving around that is to talk about the true history of party affiliation, because as I'm sure you know, and you share on your show all the time, that folk overwhelmingly vote one way with one political party, and that is because they have believed the narrative of that party for the last, 50, 60 years. And what we've done is gone back and done the analysis and the history, and we present a value proposition that says, hey, wait a minute, this party that you say is down for us because they say that they are concerned about us and they understand our plight, is the same party that was part and partial to, well, first of all, getting us here in the bottom of slave back during the forming of this nation, and in addition to that, has continually kept its collective boot on the necks of the Black, same community that say it's here to benefit.
Now, what is the difference between how the Content of Character series and the members of the Content of Character series, what is the difference between how you all present this information to the community and say how your hardline conservatives, like, how do you get the message through? Because it's a very challenging thing to do. We've been at it for years, right? And you've been at it longer than I have. So how do you do it so that people listen?
We do it that during the events that take place, we don't push party affiliation. It's true. And then we allow those in the attending the conferences to make their own decisions about whether allegiance should lie. You know, I don't feel anybody that should become a Republican. I'm one that's confident enough to want to be a part of a party that historically been pro-Black, so to speak. But we provide the truth of it. We utilize David Barton's or the many books and things he's written. It talks about the 124-year history of both political parties. The fact that the party of the abolitionists and the freedom riders, so to speak, were the Republican Party. The fact that every piece of civil rights legislation that was written and driven throughout political circles since the inception of political parties come from the Republican Party, save for 1964 to 65, when Lyndon Baines Johnson was ensconced in office after the death of JFK, where the civil rights, not civil rights, but the civil rights legislation and also the legislation pertaining to voter rights and so forth was signed by a Democrat president, but the legislation associated with it came from the Republican Party with some bipartisan participation. We share the fact that there was no party switch, which is the current misinformation that's out there, that during the so-called party switch, there was only two individuals that were the lifelong Dixie switched to the Republican Party. The types of things that we share with our participants in the conference, we show a very fact that our very good friend, Dr. Alveda King, who you know as well, talks about her uncle Martin, her daddy, and her grandfather, who were all card-carrying Republicans back during that time in history. But that stuff is pressed down by the party. You won't find any information about it on their website.
Indeed, that is so very true, and it's very difficult. At least I find it very difficult because people will, you know this, people will shout you down. People will say you're being condescending when you come at them with this information and this history. People will shout you down. They'll say you're being condescending. They'll say, they'll tell you all kinds of things about. People will tell you about yourself as soon as you come at them with the facts.
They sure will. They sure, well, I've been called everything but a child of God. Some things I've been told, or most things I've been told, I can't repeat on your show.
For sure, both of us. But I think that the content of character series, and I noticed that there's awful lot of clergy that are involved. Men that I appreciate so much that people like you have included me, and I found myself in rooms and spaces and around these men of God that I'm just and Alveda King, men and women of God, Star Parker, and I'm standing in this room like, what am I doing here with these people? Like, what am I doing in this room with all of these awesome people? And like the Lonnie Poindexters of the world, I'm standing next to Alveda King, I'm hugging Alveda King. It's crazy. But it's just such a blessing to be around all these. I don't mean powerful people as in people who have powerful. I mean powerful people of God who are just out there speaking the real truth and are doing it effectively, is what I'm talking about. And actually making changes and speaking the real truth that a lot of these churches on the corner are not doing, and you can see the effects of them not doing it. I think if Pastor Henry Essex is still here on the Facey chat, I think he posted the other day on his Facebook page, why do you think people have stopped going to church? And I posted underneath, I said, I think it's because, there are a lot of church leaders that think that if they don't tell the truth, that if they stop telling the truth, that it's going to keep people there if they don't tell the truth. But I think it's the opposite. I think that people are dying to hear the truth. I think, and not telling the truth is what's keeping them away. I think ultimately, if they tell the truth, people will flock. You just got to wait it out. Like, you got to trust God and wait it out. But I think that there's some church leaders that don't really trust God. If they just trusted God and just kept telling the truth, they'd be okay. And that's just a theory of mine, but that's what I believe. And he said, he was like, boom, boom. I think you might be right about that, because I think that's what your job is, to tell the truth. And I think the content of character series, that's what you're doing, and that's what people are drawn to it. You're telling the truth, and people need to hear it.
What our goal is to speak the truth and do it unapologetically. I think you're right on the money. You have a faction within the clergy community who are afraid to speak the truth. Some numbers say somewhere around 50% of pastors today are unwilling to do that for fear of they're for fear of attack. And I understand that's a very real fear, but I call pastor the field generals. That's mighty army. Historically, it was the pastoral community that drove this nation into being. Those who, if you read the real history about America, you'll find that the founding fathers, those who wrote the founding documents of this nation, most of them were clergy. They were deacons and pastors and whatnot. And their ability to stand up and speak truth at great peril to them personally. I mean, consider England was the most powerful nation in the world at that time. They would be akin to what the United States is today. And to stand up and thumb your nose up at England and says, you can take it, and we're standing based upon principle. We want to be free. And they literally had to fight to maintain that freedom. But it speaks to, because they did that, I personally could move God, and God allowed that ragtag bunch of wild and crazy ones, which were the founding fathers of this nation, to prevail. And that's why you and I can sit behind a microphone today and profess the truth that we profess.
It's true. It's true. And people don't want to, there's a whole lot of people who don't want to believe that either. I think I think most of them reside in the Democratic Party. I hate to say that, but it is what it is. And I hate to throw shade. I hate to throw shade on an entire party like that. And the reason why I do is because I don't want to say about an entire group of people that because I believe some people are just misguided. You know what I mean? So that's why I hate to lump people like that, because I think there's some people who are going to get there. You know what I mean? So that's why I hate to say that. That's what I mean.
Well, let's get real specific as it relates to that, because I run into the same thing. The Democrat Party rank and file are not the problem. Democrat Party leadership is the problem.
Amen.
I've made people that are Democrats that are good people. I mean, you had a Democrat congressman that spoke up on the pro-life issue. And so you have those within the party that will do that. The problem is the leadership is corrupt. The leadership has an anti-God agenda. So what I tell folks is I never tell anybody they should become a Republican. I'm one because, I just believe the roots of who we are in this nation. And I've done my homework, but I don't tell anyone they should become a Republican. But I do seriously question anybody that's a part of the Democrat Party that professes to be Christian because it means they haven't done their homework.
Right.
With what the Democrat Party is doing concerning not only the history of racism in this nation, but also abortion, which is just a slavery 2.0 in my opinion. So I get them to do, I say, do your homework. Do your own research. If you need help, we can provide you with the information through Content of Character series because we've got exhaustive information available through our website and through our conferences and what have you. And we put you in contact with subject matter experts that can come out to your church, come out to your civic group, and speak to you in real terms because they know what they're talking about and they've done the research. And by and large, Melanie, when folks prove it is an amazing thing that takes place, and I hear this all the time. Well, I'm not saying I'll become a Republican, but I do understand what you're saying about the Democrat Party. I had no idea they were into some of the foolishness that you guys are putting forth in your conference.
Exactly. And that actually, that's a really good way to handle it, is to say that it's the leadership. Well, it is the leadership. And a lot of times if people were to do their homework, but there's so many people that don't connect the dots, like don't understand how government works and literally don't understand how their vote relates, how their party affiliation relates to their vote, relates to the laws that get passed. Like they don't, you know what I mean? They don't follow the bouncing ball to how it's connected. And like how, okay, your party vote doesn't necessarily matter on a local level, but once you start getting into the state and federal level, legislatively, that does start to matter. You know what I mean? Like they don't, you know what I mean? Like the life issue is irrelevant on your municipal level pretty much. But once you start getting to the state and federal level, then it kind of does. It really does, actually. So, but if you don't know that, and that, when you're just, voting down the straight Democrat column, that's a problem. If you're saying you're pro-life and you're a Democrat, that's a problem. And people don't necessarily understand that.
It's a huge problem.
And I'm still searching for ways to like gently explain that. But there's no gentle way to say, yo, you're killing babies every time you do that. Could you stop? Maybe that's probably not the best way to handle that.
Well, sometimes you have to hit folks straight between the eyes. If I would use the methodology of Pastor Chittum's from New York City, who has a New York sensibility about him. That's the way he tends to attack everything because he's wired that way, like a classic New Yorker. But when you start to talk about the issues and you get them to agree with you on the issues, it's a huge stretch for them to begin to question the party affiliation. Most of them are just ignorant, and I mean that in the most positive way. I don't mean that in a disparaging way. They just don't know, because they've been fed the agenda. But when we start sharing the facts, the thing that Hillary Clinton was completely fine with aborting a baby up until the time it was delivered on the delivery table, where the mother can decide whether that child lives or dies, and it lays on the delivery table. It really speaks to how far the party moved, even from, let's say, center left in its worldview. And so, that's waking people up. Oh, wait a minute, I had signed on for that. The very real fact that this runaway open borders thing, what it's done to the black community. I'm from the Los Angeles area, and Los Angeles, for all intents and purposes, is Latino now. And I don't mean that because I have an issue with Latino people, but you have a good portion of the community in Los Angeles are illegal aliens, and you can't get a job in Los Angeles for the most part unless you're bilingual today. Hello?
Yeah.
There's competition for housing, there's competition for education, there's competition for health care, there's competition for jobs, this competition across the board with people who should not even be here legally, unless not even people do take into account happening in communities like Compton, where you have open season on young black males, not from police folks, but from illegal alien Latino gang members who shouldn't even be here and deported multiple times, and open up with automatic weapons on young black males.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My brother lives out there, and it lives in Long Beach. And there was a shooting somewhere near him where he had to duck down. And I'm terrified that something's going to happen to him. You know, and he's not I mean, he's a skateboarder. He's not by any stretch involved in any of that mess. But, you know, innocent bystanders get killed all the time. You know, just hanging out doing whatever. So it's terrifying that these people are here. They're not even supposed to be here, and they don't. The thing that kills me is how brazen they are that they're here. Like, you would think if you're here doing something illegal that you would lay low, but they don't. Like, they're, you know, you would think that you would try to stay under the radar, but not only are they here, they're here like demanding stuff. Like, I'm here illegally, and by the way, give me some free stuff. Like, like that's the part that I honestly cannot comprehend.
With the liberal agenda to open borders. Meanwhile, Americans, rank and file Americans, suffer day in, day out. But here's the deal, Melanie. People get sick and tired of this. Don't push government by getting elected officials and have our world talking about this. It won't be long before you'll have militias in the streets with street justice dealing with these types of issues.
Didn't that happen over in Nevada or West Virginia? Or I know they're not even close to each other. I'm just trying to remember where that happened. Didn't that happen someplace already?
Well, I know you might be speaking from Nevada, and that was when land management. Well, they were running roughshod over some ranchers and so that had cattle rights that was, and they locked corn. It took a number of years, but those individuals were able to prevail. Yeah, it's taking place. You just have to look. You can't look at the mainstream media. You got to look to Christian news and media outlets say for us to get this information, and this is what we can do to get the truth out. But you know, we're under attack as well. The social media shadow bans, much of what we do today. I have an extensive following across the country, but you wouldn't know it from the activity on my Facebook page because they just, you know, they go in there and they tweak your algorithms in that application. Folks don't even know that I exist.
You know, I was wondering about that. I was wondering, and I, not to sound overly sensitive, right? But I was wondering about your page, my page. I'm thinking we should be a lot more popular than we are. I'm just saying, right?
I agree.
Like, is it me? Like, you should definitely be way more popular than you are. I mean, you're popular. Everybody knows you. I'm just saying. Everybody knows who Lonnie Poindexter is. But I feel like it's taken me forever to get followers, and like I'm wondering if anybody ever sees my tweets. Like, you know what I mean? But
I know exactly what you mean.
Are you still there? Did I lose you? I might have lost you. Let me see if I lost you. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a storm in the area, and I think it's affecting my sound and my connection. Oh, there you are. You're clear again. Yeah, I can see it outside. Like, I'm looking outside and I can see it. It's like super dark. I thought there was one earlier, and I thought we were good because the sun came back out. It was like nice and sunny and awesome, but now it's looking dark and dismal and foreboding. Like I'm expecting to see the Four Horsemen in a minute. But
well, we're fine. We're here in the big city, and we're fine. And so, I mean, where do you live? Hooterville? Is that where you're based?
You know what? You're gonna leave my little town alone. But go ahead. I'm sorry. You were saying. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just stating it's and we got some inclement weather here as well. It's rained a little bit, but it's not that?
No, my house was shaking earlier, like literally shaking. Yeah, it was bad.
Wow.
Yeah, but sorry, go ahead. So you were saying how you get shadow banned and stuff like sometimes I feel like no one sees my tweets or anything. Like
yeah, they don't see it. They don't see it, or if they do see it, they can't respond in a way that gets back to you. The partitioning, if you raise up Bishop E.W. Jackson, his Twitter account was shut down yesterday.
Why?
Because of his worldview.
You know,
he can delete the offending tweet, and he'll be reinstated within 12 to 24 hours. Or he can appeal it, and any number of days will take for the appeal. Based on his free thought and speech, something that goes against, quote unquote, their policies. And so they're clamping down on him. Now, you know, Bishop E.W. Jackson's got tremendous name ID. He's a former lieutenant governor, gubernatorial candidate, and also ran for Senate more recently. He's on Fox all the time, which is probably the big reason why they are suspending his account.
Right.
So, you know, censorship is alive and well. Now, here's my prediction. I talked with, I believe you have one of your listeners, Mike Fitzpatrick, is listening in. Mike and I had this conversation, and Mike said, well, you know, it's business owners that own these entities. It's their right to, you know, utilize or use the customers that they want in their customer base. And if you don't agree to it, you can move on and find a platform that does. And I said, I agree with you, Mike, in principle. I said, but here's the deal. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and such have become ubiquitous with mass communications today. It's akin to going from the old telegraph days to the predominance of telephones. And if you remember correctly, remember not too many years ago, maybe this was before your time, the telephone companies got so big
that they broke them up. I remember that.
They broke them. Exactly.
I remember
the same thing happening.
Absolutely. I see the same thing happening too. In fact, I think leave Amazon alone. I know Mike's going to disagree with me on that one, but I say leave Amazon. I mean, we can leave Amazon be. You leave Jeff Bezos. I mean, now that his wife got half, I mean, there's an argument to be made that, you know, now if Amazon might not necessarily, well, as a company, they're still the same, I guess. I was trying to get my boy Jeff out of that because, you know, I love me some Amazon.
everybody loves Amazon, but Jeff Bezos is a flaming liberal. And so all it is, okay, here's what needs to happen. He needs to get remarried and not have a prenup again so she can take half of his fortune like the first wife did.
Okay, first of all, that was half their fortune. She was there before he was Jeff Bezos, owner of Amazon. Can we not fight about this right now?
I'm not in disagreement with you. I'm just stating that maybe that's the best way to deal with it. Let him get remarried and screw up another marriage, and that'll cut his fortune in half again.
Oh no, that's true love right there. That's gonna last.
Yeah, I'm sure it's true love on her behalf. Consider Tiger Woods' ex-wife got so much money that she bought her own island. I don't know how many islands that Jeff Bezos' ex-wife can buy with the money she got.
Look, the stock she got was worth $37 billion with a B.
Yeah, with a B.
The stock, just the stock. That's not even the cash, just the stock. Goodness gracious, you talk about marrying well. My girl, listen, I'm not mad at her. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. She did a good job. Good job. Like, if you have to get divorced, I didn't even get $25 when I got divorced. That's all I'm saying. Just trying to get $37. She said $37 billion on a stock. But for real, back on topic. But seriously, that's so I agree with you. I see Google's too big, Twitter, all of them. And I mean, if we get and you know, Donald Trump hates Amazon to begin with. So I see, I mean, I don't see any reason to really touch Amazon, But I see all these social media companies that are causing trouble. And Devin Nunes has a big lawsuit against Twitter right now. So maybe that'll be the impetus for them breaking up, or for some legislation for them to break up. I mean, the laws are still there. They don't go back on any laws. They never get rid of any. So the argument for them being a monopoly is still there. What did Michael say about that?
Well, if you they're impeding commerce, and so that's the grounds for antitrust. And so you get to a certain size. Microsoft was threatening to be in that ballpark until Gates got smart and began to pump some money into Apple and some other companies because he was concerned about that. So here's what my thing is. Like your old dad taught me, he said, God doesn't like ugly. So these guys get so big and they get so brazen because they're so big, they think they're above it all. And that very arrogance ends up being their undoing. I spent 20 some odd years in the tech sector. My good friend Michael Fitzpatrick as well. He just had a birthday, so he's officially in geezerhood. Just wanted to give a shout out to Michael if you're listening out there. But those companies that came up during my tech sector days, they got big and bad and brazen, thought they could rule the roost. And many of them are no longer around today because there's always another killer app just on the horizon. There's always another killer app just around the corner with some application that these guys have not thought of. It'll come on the scene. I know of individuals getting ready to launch social media platforms this year and next year. And those companies, of which I can't name because I'm under non-disclosure and they're still working on their apps, can get a foothold. And if they get a foothold, they can get a leg by a hole, and the rest can be history. And they can catch these guys unawares. That's what I think is going to happen. But in the meantime, we must push back with everything that we have. I'm still on Facebook only because I've got a huge investment of time into it, and I'm waiting for these other applications to mature enough for me to move followers over to these new apps. And so you can catch me on MeWe and some of these others that are out there, but it's going to happen.
No, I agree with you. With technology being what it is, and with apps being what they are. And I'm saying it's not like you don't know I'm a professor who knows about these things, so you can hook a sister up, but whatever. So I'm just kidding. How can people get in touch with you? What time does your show come on? How can they listen to you since you're on quote unquote real radio or whatever? How can how can they get to the content of character series, Mr. Poindexter?
I don't know about on real radio. I'm on radio, and I'm on radio in both formats. That's both IP based over the internet and also over traditional radio towers. You can catch the show from 11 a.m. Eastern until 1 p.m. Eastern. It's a 2-hour show. It's called Lion Chasers with Lonnie Poindexter. You can catch us at urbanfamilytalk.com, urbanfamilytalk.com. Once you get to the website, you can hit the About page, and it'll tell you where we have radio towers where you can listen in via your radio dial of the country. We're a part of American Family Radio, which is the largest Christian talk radio network in the nation. We're somewhere just south of 200 radio stations across the nation, and AFA recently celebrated its 41st year, I believe, or 40th anniversary, and just had a successful fundraiser where we had over 13,000 pledges in the last 3 days because we are a 501c3 nonprofit, so anyone that gives to our radio network is fully tax deductible. My show is called Lion Chasers. It's about the intersection of faith and public policy. The show's name comes from 1 Chronicles 11:22 in the Bible about Benaiah, one of David's mighty men, who on a snowy day went down in a pit and went one-on-one with a lion and prevailed. So the show is about uncommon men and women of faith who are unafraid to speak truth to power in these dark and evil days.
Amen, amen. Thank you so much for doing the show today. You were impressive,
thank you, Melanie.
As I expected. You're just fantastic. Thank you so very much, Mr. Lonnie Poindexter. I'm sure I will be speaking to you very soon.
All right. God bless you.
Bless you, honey. I'll talk to you later. That was the one and only Mr. Lonnie Poindexter with Lion Chasers with Lonnie Poindexter. And I am just so appreciative that he did the show today. And up next is the one and only Ron Edwards of the Ron Edwards Experience. And we are going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back in a couple of minutes. For those of you, real quick before we go to break, I experienced some technical difficulties because we had a storm moving through. I thought we were like done with the storms, but apparently we were not. In my area, we had a storm earlier today, a really bad, ugly storm, and then it got really sunny out, so I thought we were done, and now it looks like we have another one moving through. It's like it's really dark outside, and it's usually sunny. So yes, I'll have Ron Edwards coming up soon. I'm so excited. But right now we're going to go to a commercial break. We'll be right back in a couple of moments.
Making a living can be tough these days with so many jobs going overseas. If you love numbers and puzzles and want job security, you can become a tax specialist with an amazing 6-month tax course from Tax Mama. Operate your own tax practice locally or anywhere in the world where there are American taxpayers. It's a great way to write off your trips to visit family for months at a time. Everything you need to pass the IRS 3 special enrollment examinations is included in this course. Visit irsexams.school, and if you need more than 6 months, that's okay. Take your time. You're in the course until you pass the exams or until you unsubscribe and reject Tax Mama's emails.
Right now, you can get the credit you deserve. Just visit MrCreditRepair.biz. Let their expert credit repair specialist remove late payments, charge-offs, collections, even old bankruptcies fast and easy. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Why go anyplace else? Increase your credit score today. At Mr. Credit, you always get a quality service, all at our everyday discounted price. Stop getting turned down for cars, credit cards, or even new homes. Visit MrCreditRepair.biz today. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Your credit repair is our #1 priority.
Media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics,
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
and all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events? All kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz. Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
And welcome back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and we are in our second hour. Thank you so much for hanging with us. I want to apologize for those of you who are in the Facey chat. I have to start a new live because my feed went down, I think because we have a storm moving through, a second storm moving through, unfortunately. We had one earlier today, and I thought that was it because the sun came out, everything was shining, everything was fine. And then, like, some dark clouds came through, and the house started rumbling again. And it's like trying to decide if it wants to do it again out there. So I think that's why the feed went down. But we're back for the second hour of Money Talk with Melanie. My guest for the second hour is the one and only Ron Edwards, host of the Ron Edwards Experience. And we're going to talk all things. We're going to just do like a freestyle hour and talk all things news and politics. And if the name sounds familiar, that is because each and every week I have the privilege of playing the Ron Edwards notebook every week, and it's just super exciting to be surprised by whatever in the world he's going to say. So without further ado, the one and only Ron Edwards, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for inviting me. It's an honor to be here, and it's a real treat. Thanks so much.
It's an honor to have you. So listen, before we go any further, in case there's someone who is not familiar with you, like who's this Ron Edwards guy whose notebook she plays every week? Why does he have a notebook? What is this notebook? Why is he always running his mouth about stuff? Who is he? Can you give us a little bit of your background so that they know why you're giving your opinion on things? What makes you qualified to do so?
Well, I don't know if I'm qualified, to say, but you know what? We just go out and do what we do, and was inspired actually by my dad and the legendary Paul Harvey, who was the commentator, bar none, many years ago, and I got to hear him in the waning years of his career. And so I was inspired by both of those individuals who loved this country. And my dad taught me an awful lot about things and kind of went against the grain of what I was being fed at school. And I noticed that as things were going against our dad was teaching me, they weren't working. And when things went as dad taught me, they worked. And so I became very concerned for years. I got to radio at a young age in Cleveland. At 16, was a weekend, rip and read, news anchor for the weekend. And so then it broadened after that. Went to school, of course, in New York, and came back, did more anchoring and all that. But it was always in the back of my mind to do a commentary, because I always, in the newsroom and stuff, I was always talking about stuff, and people used to say, well, why don't you do your own commentary? You always got something to say. And I didn't agree with a lot of times how my general manager, program directors, they used to, well, you can't talk about that. What are you doing covering that story? And I would say, well, it's news. And then that's when I started learning about how they would try to control what the people were taught. What was exposed to the people. And one story that really got me going was the death of a school president in Cleveland. I used to call him Doc Holliday. He was a conservative. He was a black guy that was very concerned about the students. Things really radically improved under his tenureship. But all of a sudden, under suspicious circumstances that they swept under the rug, he was murdered in the stairwell of one of the high schools. And he would always show up at schools and shake hands with the students and all that. He was a beloved individual, and suddenly snuffed out. Well, I kind of have a suspicious nature when it comes to government. And I tried to do some investigations, and boy, did I meet with angry individuals in the city higher up in the hierarchy. And so that kind of was my opening door that supported some of the things my dad talked about, how the government covers up things and they do things to people that are trying to do good and all of that. So that was kind of the opening door. And real quick, when I moved to Michigan, I was a guest on the talk show, And I mind you, I never told an individual that I wanted to do the Edwards Notebook. Never told anyone. And I was a guest on the talk show, and the guy in the middle of the show said, "You know what? I would like you to produce a commentary and air it on my show Monday through Friday. You don't have to come in every day. Just if you can just produce them and send them, I'd be so honored." And that's how it began. And I never had told a soul that I wanted to do. I always told people I wanted to get in broadcasting, but I never told anyone I wanted to do a commentary because I was kind of afraid to do that. There weren't any black conservative commentators on the air. In fact, I am the first black commentator, not talk show host, but syndicated commentator on the air. And I was kind of, Melanie, I was a bit nervous because I was thinking, who's going to listen to this young black guy and all of that? But I pushed on and.
Oh my gosh!
Over 200, so here we are.
Because you're excellent at it. I mean, it's just one of the things that I look forward to every week is listening.
Thank you so much.
And I know that I may not necessarily agree, which is one.
Right. Yeah. We're not clones. We're not clones.
Exactly. Which is one of the reasons why I wait until I'm on the air before I play it, because I kind of want to, I know that I don't have a poker face, so I kind of want the audience who's at least in the Facebook Live to see the expression on my face while I'm listening to it, because it's always the first time I'm hearing it. So the only time I listen to it ahead of time is if I'm not sure if it's the right one.
Okay.
Like sometimes for some reason or another, like if I'm curious about the date or if I skip the show or something, I have to make sure it's the right one. But I usually don't listen to it. If I'm positive it's the right one, I don't listen to it.
I'm going to tell you something, Melanie. I got to really salute you. Because as I told you when you first began your show, that you were a natural. And I remember I told you that.
You did.
And even the laugh, you just fit. You're a natural, you're great, and your show's going to be going places if it isn't already.
Oh, you're sweet.
And just congratulations. You're really super, and I enjoy it. If I wasn't in the business at all, I would just be a fan, and I am a fan.
Oh,
so,
thank you.
To be honest with you.
Well, the feeling's mutual. I love your commentaries each and every week. Like I said, even though sometimes I'm like, I don't agree with that at all.
I respect that too.
Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna call him about that. I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah.
But they're always just excellent quality. They're all, and the arguments are always very well thought out. They're entertaining. They're always just really good. And I'm like, and then I'm always thinking, I really got to get better. That's the other thing I'm always thinking is like, I really got to get better. Because they're just always,
you're always good. By me. I mean, you're just, you're really great. And I have to tell you this too. Thank you so much, because you are probably the first, if either you or Chris Lowe is really close black talk show host to carry the Edwards Notebook. It had always only been accepted on white radio stations, white networks, and it wasn't until recent years, meeting you good guys, that blacks started accepting it. No black station in the entire United States of America would accept it ever.
Now that is a very strange dynamic.
Yeah, because that was the first route I tried to take when I first started out. My instinct was to take it first there and then spread it to the general. But I had to go to the general first. And it was accepted right away. Because they said the same things like you. Well, I don't agree with everything you're saying, but these are good. They'd be a good addition. Great topics of conversation, blah, blah, blah. And it grew from there. And so I just thank you. Whether you agree or disagree, you took them. You took the risk, and I salute you guys for doing that. So,
well, no,
to you.
Yeah, well, thank you. No, it's no problem. I mean, it's good quality. We should be. I just think we should be supporting each other. We should be helping each other. I have this theory, and I don't think it's a strange one. But especially among Christians, Doug in the Facey Chat says liberalism reigns. I think that's probably a contributing factor too. But I think there's this I think there's this thing among conservatives, particularly Black conservatives, and I hate to say it, but I think there's like this competition thing where everybody thinks like that they have to pick their space, right? And nobody, like, they think if I'm in this space, that nobody else can be in this space. You know what I mean? So, like, if I put somebody in this space, then that's my space. And I don't believe that. Like, if we're all supposed to be Christians, and I'm sure I've said this before, that, like, what God do we serve? Do we serve an infinite God or not? Like, you know what I mean? So, like,
that's how it was brought up by my dad.
Right.
We all work together, and the better you are, the better it helps me, because with your commentary, when you decide to produce them,
I know.
And I add them to the show, it's a great flavor. People love them. I mean, a great professional female voice who's talking the right stuff and doing a heck of a job with those commentaries that you make. Money Talk with Melody. It only enhances the show, and so there's no, but I get what you're saying. A lot of people do have this, what is it called, crab mentality.
Right.
And it's like, and they're very small-minded. They have a tiny little bit of territory, and it's like, oh no, I'm not gonna let you in, and they stay tiny.
Right.
You know that they stay tiny.
Right. And I don't quite understand that, especially among Christians. That part I don't get. Like
that's the one that really gets me. And I could tell you some stories, but we don't have time for that. But
yeah, I mean, I share everybody's stuff. When their show is on, if I see your promo, I share it. I like it. To me, it's like it's plenty of room for everybody. We're all supposed to be like Team Jesus. So what's the problem? Like, I don't get like with this. He has enough room to bless everybody. It's gonna be cool. He'll work it out.
Right there.
Yeah, he'll work it out. Don't worry about it. I mean,
if you're a blessing to someone else, guess what? God sees that and He blesses you. What you put out, you get back. It's a principle.
It's a principle.
People don't understand that.
Right. And so, to me, that's just something that you let Him work out. I would feel bad skipping over somebody else's promo. Like, I know why somebody is promoting their stuff. They're promoting their stuff for the same reason that I promote their stuff. So that I promote my stuff. So when I see someone else's stuff, I go ahead and it takes 2 seconds to share somebody's stuff. So whatever. I don't I don't get it. It's not for me to get. As Lonnie says all the time, I got bigger fish to fry. So I can't really concern myself with that. Can't really concern myself with that because I don't understand the thinking. I don't.
You're an eagle. Don't hang with the chickens.
There you go. I'm gonna use that one. That's good. I don't know. That's good. I never heard that one. All right. So let's talk about some news, shall we?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
What do you want to talk about 2020? You want to talk about the Democratic candidate? It's such a weak topic.
Do I have to? No. What?
It's such a weak topic at this point. I mean, look at it. Biden? That's what they got. You got Biden. You got Buttigieg. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Like, these are the top three. Who's the top three? Who's in third place? I don't even know who's in third place.
I have no idea. To me, they're all bottom feeders, so there is no first or second place. They're all together at the bottom.
They are terrible. They're terrible.
But that's good. I like it.
I mean, it is good.
I love it.
And the primaries are going to be hilarious.
They have no ideas. The only thing that they're running on, he is making the same mistake that Mrs. Clinton made, and he's running on, hey, I'm an anti-Trumper. Well, I'm sorry, fella. Trump has, because what was it? Came out today, 3.2% GDP.
Yep.
And the old experts were saying, no, we can't. We're not going to be hitting 3% again this year.
Yeah.
Well, here we are.
And here we are.
So it's about advancing economic growth. I mean, if you want to see an improvement in your life, whether you're black, white, purple, or whatever,
you have to do certain things. And Trump has been doing those things despite all of that. And in my opinion, it's not even all about Trump. It's about we the people. And we the people have to start waking up and, as you point out, uniting and forcing our legislators to do their job. You have all of these people, both Republicans, and I have more, right now, Melanie, I have more disrespect for the Republicans than I do the Democrats. And the reason why is because the Democrats, you know they're dirtbags. You know that they want to kill the country. You know that they are the party of racism. You know they're the party of just all destruction. Fine, that's what they are. But when you have people like Deputy Droopalong, what's his face? You know, the old the droopy guy, Mitch McConnell. And who's bought off by the Chinese. You have McCarthy, who is a step above John Boehner, but not much. And the only people that I respect, you've got a Jim Jordan, you've got a few others here and there, but even the Republicans, in my opinion, are bad eggs. Not because they're promoting worse principles, but when you know the truth and you half-heartedly stand for the truth and you don't fight back and you don't push, then I have no respect for you. God has no respect for you. One of the reasons why, in my opinion, God had respect for people like Donald Trump, not because they were good or perfect or whatever, but because they have chutzpah. If you have chutzpah, even if you have certain flaws or whatever, if you are sincere in the effort of the things that you're trying to do good, you will get those things done. God supports that. King David, you go back to the biblical history, he was a flawed man, but because his heart was good, he loved God, he loved the principles, and he fought for those principles, and to this day, he is the best leader that Israel ever had. Now, Donald Trump, he's cleaned up his act, in my opinion, but there are those who say he's, these people that once bad, always bad, but, I ignore people like that, but he has been like a bull in a china cabinet, and as I've told people, that is what we needed at this time. Ted Cruz loved the guy, loved his dad, has met them, dined with him and everything like that, but I knew they did not have the personality for what they're dealing with now. He would have been smashed under the pressure that they're putting Trump under. Trump is a New Yorker, and I love New Yorkers. They're fighters. They don't have evil intent, but they don't take stuff. And they don't deal with a lot of emotion. They don't have time for it.
Right.
They don't.
Right. That's what.
They just don't.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. They just don't. And another thing that really gets missed, and I see it over and over again in social media. I'm really starting to resent these comments about religion and Christianity and how it relates to people's actions. And I'm not saying that you can walk around being a Christian and then living like a polar opposite, like a polar opposite life. But what I do find that seems to get missed, and that people who don't look closely at the scriptures and really look closely at who God valued and who he didn't, is that he really valued acts of faith. It wasn't so much whether or not you did bad things. I'm not saying it, but you have to look at the why. The reason why he doesn't want us to do bad things, yes, he hates us doing bad things, but that's mostly because he understands that it's going to screw us up. It's like out of love for us. It's like, yeah, doing bad things, I don't like bad things, but also it's bad for you. Like ultimately, it's bad for you. It's a protection for you. You shouldn't do bad things because it's not so much about the wrath of God. It's about that, but also I know it's best for you, so don't do bad things. But what he loves, you know what I'm saying? Right, because he's a good parent. But what he values is that exercise in faith toward him. That's the stuff that always got people saved. When you think about it, right? The prostitute, right? The person who was hanging next to Jesus at the crucifix.
Oh, yeah.
King David is a perfect example of that. Every time there was, and you can't figure it out though, right? You're like, how did all these people, like they did all these terrible things, how did they end up getting saved? It was always about their faith. And
that's what, and look at the founding fathers. Do you think for 1 minute, and I keep getting, sometimes I get feedback from people, and they tell me that I'm all wrong, that I'm all wet when it comes to the founding fathers when I say that the majority of them were believers.
mm-hmm.
And I ask anyone to just look at that situation objectively. Do you think that without faith, those gentlemen who were over a military situation that was very minute at best could take on and win against the superpower of that time?
If they didn't have
well-trained, well-equipped soldiers against men whose feet were frozen to the ground in many cases, starving, diseased, all kinds of perilous situations, but yet they had an unyielding faith, and they were able to defeat King George and company. That was faith, and they overcame. And they could not have achieved that just being, they say that all of them at best were deists or Masons or whatever, although some of them were Masons. George Washington, as a young man, was a Mason, but in his writings he denounced it later. He condemned it as he moved closer to God. But they had an unabiding faith in God. They said, hey, we don't want this tyranny. We want to get out of it. And trust me, it was only 3% of the population that were actually involved in the fight, and 13% that supported it. And against all that odds, they still won because they had faith. This is the kind of faith we have to exhibit today in order to recover this republic. And we cannot recover this republic being these mamby-pamby, racists behind every doorknob, or bigot behind every doorknob kind of idiot. They're running around here because the man wants to shut the border, which you should. Put sensors under the walls so that they can be detected when they dig underground, like they have done in Israel, and they don't have that problem anymore. When people are lying and say the walls don't work, they're lying.
Oh, yeah.
But we have to, but those of us who want what's best for this country, we've got to really shut the noise out. And I'm talking about people from all walks. You know, you have your liberal whites that have their stupidity. You have the liberal blacks that have their stupidity and ignorance and their complaints. You have the, the weak and droopy daffodil people who want to melt every time Trump says anything. Oh my God, he's so evil, he's a bigot. You know, yet at the same time, they have no problem with men, gruesome knuckle draggers who are crossing into this nation, literally raping women left and right. They have this giant rape tree. It's in Arizona near the border, where after they rape someone, they hang their underwear on this tree. And I've been to the border down there, below Yuma. They took me down there. I thought it was a dump site for garbage, and that they were fooling me. I said, wait a minute, this is a landfill. No, this is what these people drag in and they leave behind. They come in this country and they totally disrespect it. Look what the liberals are doing to great cities like Seattle, San Francisco. I have visited these cities. They were beautiful. San Francisco was so beautiful. I said, oh my God, when the first time I saw it, I just was walking around and said, oh my, this is in America. This is so beautiful. Now, people that I know there, Ron, we'd love you to come out, but we really don't want you to come out because you'll probably just go crazy if you see what's on the ground here all over the place and what they have done, what Pelosi has overseen in her district, what Way Out Waters down in Southern California has allowed in her district, which she does not even live in, by the way. And these knuckleheads, these idiots continue to vote these people in office, then they turn around, and they're the ones that are doing the damage. Okay, they continue to vote the killers in office, the ones that are trying to kill the economy, that are running these cities. Then they turn around
point their fingers at not just Trump, but anyone. They point their finger at you because you don't agree with them and call you all kinds of names and blame you for the problems in their lives. And so it just goes on and on. So, Melody, we have to shut these people out, shut out the noise, and kind of get a tunnel vision on what is right and connect with the like-minded people, which you do, which you're very good at. Mm-hmm. But we all have to start doing this and work in unison to save this republic.
Indeed. You know, I have a friend who said that there weren't a lot of us. So a friend of mine who lives here said there's not a lot of Black conservatives. And because I was at CPAC and New Jersey, in their infinite wisdom, decided to have a GOP leadership summit the same weekend as CPAC. And I wasn't there. I'm on the executive board of the African American Coalition of New Jersey. And I wasn't there because I was at CPAC. And they were like, they said, well, like 20% of the African American Coalition was not there because I wasn't there. And I said, well, I was at explained it. I was at CPAC, and they were like, well, there's not a lot of, you know, there aren't a lot of Black conservatives. I said, on the contrary, there are tons of us. So that's why I go to DC. There's actually lots of us. I said, that's a misnomer. That's a fallacy. There are tons of us. I said, you go on my Facebook page, look at my friends list. Most of the Black people that you see are all conservatives. There's hundreds of them on my friends list. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of them. I said, but you know, the media will have you believe that we don't exist. I said,
of course they don't. That's exactly what they want people to think, because they want to convince other Blacks, oh, there's not many you conservatives out there. They don't want to see us connect. They don't want us to see us do what we can do as conservatives united. I mean, there's so much brain power between all of us. If we really put our heads together, we could do some great things in this republic. I'm talking about with business, in the area of business and finance. That's what we really need to pursue, especially during this time of prosperity. Finance, learning about real history in this country, because without our history properly taught, our nation will be doomed. And we also, as conservatives, see the basis of conservatism, and you know this, Melanie, is in a high moral character.
Yes.
And if you have a high moral character, and you're going to be blessed because you're going to be doing the right things. You're going to gravitate toward the right things. If you have a true high moral character, I'm not talking about people that are religious. That's a different thing than having faith and being a true believer in Jesus Christ. That's two different things.
Absolutely.
There's religious people out here that are nothing more than pains in the neck. They make noise, jump around, sweat. You know what I mean? You've seen them.
Yes, indeed. They're frauds.
And, you know, and they're in the way as far as I'm concerned. But
Amen.
God loves them. They're sincere in their own way. But through faith, that is so important. First of all, you have to know what you're having faith in, and you have to, through your faith. Faith is a strengthener. I mean, you do things that you never would have thought you could do. It took faith for you to start your show. You didn't just jump out there without thinking about it, and well, because I'm sure, just like I did, you hemmed and hawed a little bit, but you stepped out there, and voila!
It feels crazy. It still feels crazy that there's people who listen to me and ask me when I'm going to be on and listen to me, and when I see my numbers, I'm like, that many people are listening to my show? I mean, that's the point, right? Like, yes. I do it because I want people to listen, but still, when I see my numbers, I'm like, wow, that many people are listening. All right, then. It's kind of crazy.
Happens.
Yeah.
See, when you're doing a good job in faith, God is going to bless you because you're giving out good information. You have great guests on who are giving out great information, however you do it, what your style is. And you're almost guaranteed success. So what we have to do as a coalition of conservatives, real conservatives, is to push forward and now not allow these legislators to screw over us and to make, and to pretend that they're doing something when they are not. The majority of Republicans, it took me a long time to finally accept that even the majority of Republicans are full of crap. I knew that I thought maybe it was just a small percentage of them.
Well,
but I've learned, no, they're not as evil as the Democrats.
No,
they're not. But they are worse in a sense, because the Lord says, if you are neutral or lukewarm, that's the one He says He will spew out of His mouth. Because if you're cold on the other side, there are many people, even in the Bible. Paul comes to mind. Before he was Paul, he was Saul. He was cold. He was just out there, man, doing all wrong. But God saw his energy, and he was sincere in what he was doing. God turned him around, and he used that same energy to do what was right.
He was sincerely killing some Christians.
Ineffective, deputy droop along type like Mitch McConnell. You're nothing. You're nothing. You're just in the way.
That's true.
And so we have to coalesce around what is true and forget the dumb stuff, to get the noise out of the way and Katie bar the door and just go for it. Because I see bright days ahead for this country. I don't see all the doom and gloom that some people see. I do see all the evil, but I also see a growing number of people that are not willing to continue to put up with the evil. And that's where you're going to get the backlash against the evil, and there's going to be a gradual turnaround. And it even comes with this, for instance, abortion. You have states now, like my home state of Ohio, heartbeat bill. It's a wiser way of dealing with and eventually getting rid of abortion. They tried to get rid of it wholesale. It's not going to work. You have to do it incrementally. Sometimes, you have to be harmless as a dove, yet wise as a serpent.
Right.
And you have to be able to adapt, innovate, and create when it comes to battling against evil. And good is on our side. God is on our side. He wants us to win. He doesn't want America to go under. He really doesn't.
Am I the only one who is shocked that Robert Mueller didn't find anything? And let me no, wait a minute. Let me tell you what I mean. What I mean is, I thought for sure that they were going to make something up, that they would trump up, no pun intended, that they would trump up some evidence, that they were going to make something up, that they were going to entrap him. Like, I thought they were going to do something to him. I'm going to be honest. I thought that they were going to make something up. I honestly did. Like, I'm floored that they could find nothing, that they got nothing. I'm grateful, but I'm a little stunned by that.
Well, they did make up stuff in order to get it started.
Yeah, they did.
And when they went to that judge, the FISA report, and they fooled that judge, see, what you're going to start seeing in a few weeks, you're going to start seeing some big names. Clapper is one that comes to mind, and a few others. And you're going to start hearing about this person being investigated, another person being investigated. A.G. Barr is the real deal.
Oh yeah. Well, apparently that report said. Apparently, it said that report was verified. The judges thought it was verified. All this time, we didn't think it was verified. But apparently, the judges thought it was verified.
Right.
So somebody verified that report.
Yeah, but so now that it's getting out beyond just that circle, that how this thing came about, which in itself is a crime. And I don't need to get into the long history of the Clintonistas.
Oh no.
A lot of people are in dirt sleep
prematurely because of them, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
It's just my opinion.
yeah. I'm afraid a lot. Listen, I'm listening for more people to suddenly disappear. Like I'm afraid. I mean, seriously, you're not like listening for more people connected with this case to suddenly like somebody to eat their gun, like Peter Schrock and his girlfriend. Like, come on. I'm serious. I'm serious.
Well, she sang like a bird.
Oh, did she really?
Yeah, she sang like a bird. She's one of the reasons why that they're going to be able to investigate. She talked about how things were put together and all of that, and about those emails. And by the way, I can't verify it because I've only read, I think it was from two sources, that they have recovered some of the emails that Mrs. Bleach Clinton used to get, when she got rid of those emails, when she bleached them away. Somehow, I don't know if it's even true or not, so I'll just...
Why are you bleach bidding emails about yoga? I mean, you're bleach bidding emails about yoga. I mean, are they that really?
Well, and then they beat up some phones or whatever, all that stuff. But it's going to start coming to fruition. And the big mistake, because there have been even attempts on Trump's life and all of that.
I believe that.
Oh yeah,
I believe that.
Absolutely.
I believe that he's. I believe
alive,
there's been several
he's alive
attempts.
by the skin of his teeth. Trust me on that one. But God's not. God's got this, and I'm telling you, things are going to start unravel. I'm surprised that Uncle Joe decided to go ahead and put his hat into the ring. He must be even cockier than Mrs. Clinton because because the reason why is because his son, remember,
with Ukraine,
vice president, he bullied Ukraine and told them, "I will bankrupt your country if you do not give my son this particular contract." This story, things like that are going to come out. If I were someone who had done that, I would not be entering the race to run for president of the United States of America.
Especially since Donald Trump is president. Well, and the thing is, Donald Trump is president, and you know how freaking petty he is. Like, he's super petty, and I'm saying, he's super petty. The stuff that he has access to. So if he finds out, if he is able to verify that, he's going to tweet it. He's your opponent, and he has access to all that information.
Well, did you hear him the other day? He said he's releasing all the Pfizer report, all that stuff. It's in there. What I just told you is in those reports.
And he was vice president at the time. You're telling me that him and Barack were
in Ukraine.
Right. Like you knew nothing that was going on. Like you and Barack were super duper tight, and Barack knew nothing. You knew nothing about any of this that was going on. And he's going to save it for the debates or save it for a tweet. Like,
He's getting smart. He tweets all the time about stuff, but there's a whole lot that he doesn't tweet about.
He's doing it on purpose.
Oh, yeah, he's strategic. A lot of people, they get upset. A lot of our conservative friends get upset. Why you got the tweet? Why are you doing that? It's all part of a mad strategy.
But wait a minute.
I don't know if it's about pettiness. I think there is a petty side to him. But in this particular area, it's about strategy, and it's literally about taking these idiots down who wanted to take America down. Look what they did to California. Do you remember when Eric Holder said that they were going to basically ruin California, and that would be basically a template to take down the rest of the country, overrun it economically, overrun it with these immigrants, illegal border crossers, just wear it down.
No.
And this is what they're doing.
Well, they certainly did it.
Yeah, And so this is a template to take down the country, but it's not. It ain't gonna work.
Why would they take down the country? Why do they hate America so much? What is their problem?
Well, you know what? I'm going to ask you, but I didn't learn this answer until I moved to Michigan and I got around people in Detroit, because there's a lot of liberals here. And there's just this deep-seated, long-term bitterness. And when you have to talk to people like John Conyers and you learn these people, although they're successful, they act like they were the biggest victims in the history of mankind, and they have this deep-seated hatred of the country. And they would rather see the country destroyed and brought down to a lower level than for a rising tide that rises all boats through economic prosperity and equal opportunity as opposed to equal results. Look at what's going on now. You see a robust economy. Could be better, but it is robust. Lots of opportunities. Easy to find advertisers. I mean, things are just much better, trust me. And you still have black people running around acting as if they just got off the plantation last week, that they still have the markings of the shackles from around their ankles.
Ron.
And they're running around bitter and crazy.
Ron, somebody posted on my Facebook page maybe last week a video, some video about systematic racism. And about redlining and all this stuff. And he was, so I said, right. So I said, so I made some comment on it. And he said, obviously you don't understand economics. I said, actually, economics is right in my wheel. Right. I said, economics is right in my wheelhouse. I said, I just don't co-sign that mentality. I just don't live there. I said, listen, I said, I could have been born in any place on the planet, particularly as a brown person. I could have been born in a country where I had to walk 10 miles to get clean water. Instead, I was born here. I said, and I know God. I said, I'm blessed. So I'm blessed beyond measure. I said, so I'm too busy trying to get my hustle on and take advantage of all these opportunities to worry about redlining, which happened in 1950, 1960. Really. I said, I'm sitting here, with a master's degree, third year of my PhD, a professor, a teacher, you know what I mean? With a roof over my head and a nice warm house. With a podcast and an audience with sponsors, and I'm going to sit here and complain about redlining.
Oh, please.
Am I though? Am I gonna do that? Really?
I don't think so.
I don't think that I'm doing that. No.
No. It's see, and that's why I said earlier we're going to have to shut that noise out. We don't dog the people out. We pray for them, pray that they see the light one day, that God will reach them, and that He will fill them with His wisdom. Because it used to be that I would condemn them and put them down and say they're just whatever. But I pray for them now and pray for their betterment. Because if you are bitter, you don't get better as long as you're bitter, and it causes illness in your body. And you know where you end up eternally, because through bitterness you do evil and all that stuff. And so you talk about what people used to go through in the 1950s. In the 1950s, blacks were dealing with Jim Crow and all kinds of stuff. But you could not find back then blacks who were unpatriotic. They flew their flags just like everyone else. They would fight Mr. Racist on one hand, but fight for this country if something went down. Mm-hmm. Because they were still taught well in their schools. Their fathers taught them well in those areas, and so they had a better chance because they weren't so crazy and bitter to build a better future for their families. 42% of Black Americans in the 1950s owned measurable businesses on their small businesses. Some of them, they were side hustles or whatever. Whereas today,
I think it is expanded to 4%. It was a couple of years ago 3% black business ownership in this country. Now, you tell me, based on that alone, with all the advancements that we have made socially in this country, why is it, unless it was based on bitterness and not partaking of opportunities, that business ownership would fall from 42% to 3% during the Ali Obama administration?
It's got to be bitterness. And you know, I said to the guy, I said, is what you're saying life's not fair? I said, so life's not fair. I said it's no more. I said, this is no more unfair. I said, so what about the kid who's born with a disability? What about him? I said, what about, because it was comparing two kids who were born in different school districts, and one kid had opportunities and another kid didn't. I said, well, what about the white kid who was born under that circumstance? What about him? I said, what about the white kid whose father had some horrible accident and died and grew up in a single parent? What about that kid who had some misfortune? What about the white kid who has a reading disability? What about him? And he struggles. What about that? What about the kid who's born with no arms, or no legs? But
What about the Slovenians? What about the Slovenians, where we can coin the term slavery from? All the slavery, black people are not the only people that went through slavery. As I recall, the Jewish people, and they did not allow slavery to make them stupid.
No, and my point is, we all have something. Manage it. Manage it.
You put that on a T-shirt. We all have a problem. Manage it. And
that was my point. That was my point to him. I'm like, okay, so he was like, well, what, because of that, blah, 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 blah. I was like, okay. And so now that we're all aware, because we got the video, what are we going to do about it? Manage it. And then, because the video said there's no one person, there's no one person or entity that's responsible for, black people being in this situation. I said, your video said that. I said, so since the video said that, I said, it seems to me that it's our individual responsibility to manage the situation, just like any other unfair situation in life. So.
And guess what, Melody? Life is not fair.
Yeah, exactly. Hello.
It's not. It wasn't meant to be fair.
No.
But America was uniquely built to give you equal opportunities.
Yep.
And that beats fairness any day. Because if you want fairness, let's see, move to Venezuela. Everyone is hungry.
Yeah. Yep. So it's nice and fair. Everything's equal. Yeah. Somebody said that to me the other day. We want to make sure everything's equal for black people. I'm like, oh, so you mean you're waiting for Jesus to come back? Because that is, you're trying to take the place of Jesus, because that is the only time that is going to happen in earnest, my friend. Until then, this is what we got.
I don't want fairness. I want equal opportunity. I want to be able to rise over things. I want to overcome obstacles. I mean, that's what we're supposed to be doing in this life. And the United States is such a uniquely put together country that we have the wherewithal and the ability to overcome all kinds of obstacles. And by doing that, you rise to greatness, to a level of greatness you would not be able to do. And I don't know, 99% of all the other countries on the planet of the earth, since there has been nations on earth.
Yep.
So for you or for people to run around here with this bitterness, to me, I look at them as barnacles. They're in the way. They create problems. They're the ones that pressure legislators that enact stupid laws that get in everyone's way. They harm businesses.
I told them.
They force businesses to pay for things that doesn't make any sense, that do not help anyone. They waste money. These policies. Look at the war on poverty. It's the same percentage of people in poverty as before the war on poverty, or LBJ's, as he said, in Great Society. It's the same.
it's really just whining. And that's what I said to him. I said, I don't have time to whine because I'm busy out here trying to get stuff done. I just don't. And he's like, oh, it's whining. I said, yeah. I said, the video said there's no entity or person responsible to hold responsible for that. So anything else is basically whining. You're whining.
Yeah.
I don't like. I don't know what would you like? Okay, so okay, so white people did bad stuff. All right. So now what? Okay.
You know what I like? You know what I like to throw back at them? If it wasn't for your fellow black citizens, since you want to play this game, if it wasn't for your black citizens who were selling you to the Muslims and to the white man, there wouldn't have been this situation. Had they had the gumption to build a great society so that when they were invaded, they could fight them off like the Chinese did when they were invaded. But no, they were too busy trying to live just one step above an animal that they never built a society of greatness, so they were easy pickings.
Oh, yeah, and don't you see the caravans of black people going over to Libya to save their brothers and sisters from the slave trade? Don't you see it? You see them, right? You see everybody. You see the black people flying over there because of the slavery that's going over there now to save their brothers and sisters, because, you know, they're all about Africa and us being brothers and sisters. They
never talk about the current slave. When I bring up the slave trade of today,
right?
About 27 million slave victims right now, mostly black.
Right.
And they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that noise.
Like you so concerned. Go. Why don't you go? I mean, go get the folks that are in trouble right this second, and they're not even like expensive. You can go get you one for like $300-400 right now. How many, if they knew? I'm not even kidding, Ron. You know I'm telling the truth. $400. How many wouldn't go get one if they knew about it right now? Wouldn't go get one if it was legal. $400 is not even that much money.
They don't. Why don't these black complainers put together a charity?
Right.
You know, like the Jews do,
buy their freedom.
Jews, you know, but they're hypocrites, and the truth is not in them.
That's right. Why is there something like that? It seemed like it would be fairly easy to put something like that together. Buy their freedom. Get them some citizenship or whatever. Do that. Yeah. Right? But nobody's doing any of that.
Embarrassment. They're a national embarrassment. If you go to your major cities like Seattle, Cleveland, if you took out the black population out of Cleveland and Seattle, it would almost be crime-free. You know, and all of the criminal activity, by the way, is black on black.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about the 0.0003% of white cops. Let's discuss that, because that's really, you know, that by the way, killed like a criminal. Not like don't get me. Please don't get me started on that. This is just going.
Oh, I want to get you
just
started.
Gonna make me. Just gonna make me mad. Like meanwhile, like innocent babies are being shot up every day. Like no one cares. No march for them. No riot for them. Nobody cares. But God forbid a drug dealer catches one in the chest, then you know there's a problem. Then we got to burn a whole city down. Just saying. So we're
a fellow black family threatened to sue and have me thrown in jail because this was years ago in Cleveland, because I caught a guy. I wasn't living in the city no more, but I was home visiting, and I happened to go by my mom's house. It was about 11 o'clock, because she used to read at night, late at night. She'd be up reading. And I happened to tiptoe. I wasn't tiptoeing, but I was walking. I walked quietly. And the guy was breaking in the side door. So I'm like, okay, we've got to stop this. And which I did. And we start dancing in the driveway, and a gun pops out. So I really start forcing the issue. And my neighbor ended up turning the hose on and shooting it in my face so that he wouldn't be totally taken out. Well, the police come telling me, Ron, it would have been better had you taken him out. Because all I did was put him in the hospital. But the good news, I had a good lawyer. All that was washed away. And here's the better news. After what I did to him, he never committed another criminal act again. Before that, he'd go to jail and get let out early, commit another crime. Did rapings. He was a horrible piece of work. And, police are no longer allowed to go hard at the criminals.
See, I think I like the old fashioned way things used to be handled. Personally, like I don't think kids would be so quick.
To walk the beat?
Yeah, and they would handle criminals the old-fashioned way. I don't think kids would be so quick to be in my face if my nephews can handle things the old-fashioned way. And I'm not saying whether they have or haven't at some point in some situations. I'm just saying, because some of my students are like way out of control. But if I didn't have two humongous nephews, some things you said, "What's my aunt?" Did you know that was my aunt? Did you know that was my aunt when you said that? Don't do that again.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, sometimes things need to be handled the old-fashioned way. Seriously, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So how can we listen to the Ron Edwards Experience? Where can we hear that?
Well, please listen to it every Friday on AmericaMatters.us. You can also hear it Sundays at 12 a.m. on Talk America Radio, a network which is a group of radio stations around the country and internet around the world. Also, the Ron Edwards Experience is now heard on KYAH, that's AM 540, that's in Utah. And the Edwards Notebook is now heard on well over 200 stations around the country, primarily on a fast-growing overnight show called The Captain's America Third Watch. And that's about 206 stations, and then it's on about 20 other independent stations around the country. So that's what we're doing. I also write a column, which is you can check out at newswithviews.com, as well as Capitol Hill Outsider. And many columns from several years are archived at those sites. And so folks can check me out, of course, on Facebook. I've got 3 pages there, the regular, Ron Edwards page, and there's Friends of the Edwards Notebook, and then there's also the Ron Edwards Public Figure page, where my show is also run through on Fridays. And that's about it, Mel. And again, thank you so much for inviting me. You are a blast.
Oh, so are you. So are you. Thank you so much for being on the show. That was so much fun, this doubleheader with you and Lonnie. That was fantastic.
Oh, yeah, Lonnie, I love that guy. He's fantastic.
Oh, is he the best or what? I said, is he the best or what?
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. Yep. Thank you so much. You all are listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. That was the one and only Ron Edwards from Ron Edwards Notebook. My first hour, I had Lonnie Poindexter. I would like to thank him so much for being on the show. And thank you, Ron Edwards. And thank you all who are listening on SHR Media and in the Facey chat. And if you're listening to this as a download on iTunes or any of the other podcast platforms, I thank you very much. I want to thank my sponsors, Eva Rosenberg, the Tax Mama, Robert Houston, creditrepair.biz, and of course, John Campbell from Biz Social Personal Touch. If you like this mug and other products like it, do get in touch with him. And you can find all of the sponsors at moneytalkwithmelanie.com. Thank you so very much. And remember, all of this is very important because it's your money. Have a great weekend.